Greetings, everybody. I'm Adam Walter, and here's Skip again. And today we're talking about confirmation bias. And it's something that we all suffer from. If you have not dealt with like things like Dunning-Kruger, confirmation bias, there's a bunch of terms for this error that we all make when we make assumptions based upon the data set we have. And the answer to it is more data, right? Like if you see a pack of zebras and you're constantly around zebras in Africa, and then all of a sudden somebody starts explaining to you a four-legged beast that you has a mane and a tail, you're going to think zebra
Yep.
because your entire life that's what you've seen. But to the rest of the world, that's a horse
Right.
because that's what they've seen. And so if you start describing this thing with four legs, hooves, a mane, and a tail, they're going to think horse. And you're thinking zebra. And I know in like medical and in diagnostics, they talk about finding zebras. Like if it looks like this, just go with the most common answer.
Right.
And so amongst technical people, we spend all of our time around technology. So we assume everybody else cares about technology at the same level
Yes.
we do.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's no, we are looking at zebras. We're the ones not looking at horses. The
Hmm.
rest of the world, when they're doing business, they're thinking finance, they're thinking personnel management, they're thinking, okay, how do I reach my market? How do I do better market analysis? And so when we're talking about risk analysis, and immediately an IT person goes, "Oh, cybersecurity threats, NIST scorecard, SIP." They're going compliance checks. When a business person thinks risk analysis, they're thinking, "Okay, what are the threats to my revenue? What could shut down my business? Who are my new entrants into the marketplace?" And they're thinking all these things. And so an IT person comes and goes, "Hey, let's talk about risk analysis." And the business person's like, "Yeah, sure." And it
Right.
goes completely off to left field. And you're
Right.
like, "Well, this isn't the meeting I thought I was going to have."
Right. This is what I'm interested in, and that is, I think we can focus on zebras all we want when we talk about technical stuff and kind of in-house sort of deals. That's fine. We're able to see that, but the moment that you start that engagement with your clients, you have to switch that over, and everything has to be from their perspective. So many of my coaching sessions or just support sessions, that's the phrase that I use all the time, in context of the business.
Yes.
And you really do have to switch, and that can be really hard because you're not in their business. You're not working in healthcare or manufacturing or something. You're in IT, right? So there's a really simple fix to this, and it's just stop talking.
Start listening.
Start listening. Stop
You need
talking
to
and start listening.
gather
Yep.
you need to gather more information from your client. So, like, I talk about different contexts all the time, and sometimes people are like, "Well, it's obvious." Like,
Mm-hmm.
I see why you think it's obvious. You are
Yeah.
a good person, and you're coming to a conclusion. You're coming to a conclusion based upon the data you have, and I understand. However, what if there was more to it? And so you sit down, and I think as a parent, you learn this lesson really well. Like your kid is convinced this is the right thing to do, that they made the right choice. And in the moment, they did make the right choice based upon a very, very small set of data. And the long term ramifications, like why do things keep going wrong, is because you're making decisions based upon a small set of data. Widen that set of data by listening more and adding more context to what you're doing. And then you find out that hey, you shouldn't just spend all your money on candy right now. It made sense in the moment, I get it, because that's the only thing you ever spend money on. There's
Right.
nothing else to spend money on. There's no reason for you to save money
Yeah.
because candy is all that you really need.
Yeah.
However, if you start seeing like I want this electric bike, oh now I need to save up. There's more to this. I didn't know those electric bikes cost $2,500.
Uh-huh.
That's a lot of lawns to mow. And every time I buy
On the
candy at
candy
the
bar.
grocery store, that's $5. I'm gone. I'm out.
Yeah.
And so you start thinking a bigger context. And then eventually you start growing up even more. And you think, I really want to go on a vacation. I'm going to save up even more money. I really want to have a different lifestyle. I need to have a better job with better cash flow. And you start thinking bigger things. Your clients are thinking the same way. Yes, you want them to buy a PC. That's short-sighted. They want to expand their business. They want to be the number one seller of flowers in the area. They want to be the best dentist, attorney, or whatever it is they do. And they're trying to find ways to get to that. But you're over here just trying to sell them candy and sell them little things. Yes, they're important in that context. But if you sit and listen to your clients, you'll get out of that confirmation bias, because what you're seeing is you give them a computer and that particular aspect of the company starts running better. And
Yep.
it's a small aspect of their company. But to you, that's your entire world. To you, that had a huge impact. Look how much better that computer runs. Look what you can do now. You don't fill out as many tickets, and so you're not wasting as much time. And to them, it's just this little tiny ball over here. You're not seeing everything else. And so you're confirming your bias when you give them the new computer, when you give them the new firewall, because you're only looking at those one problems. You're only looking at one context.
Yeah.
And so if you, as Skip said, if you sit and listen for a bit, you'll find out that, oh, no wonder they didn't want to buy that. No
Yeah.
wonder they didn't want to spend $4,000 on that thing. They're trying to figure out if they, how to like have a better booth at the trade show.
Mm-hmm.
They want to sell more widgets at this trade show. They want to buy a new camera for their photographers. And that is one of their primary sources of revenue. And they only have so much cash, just like you. So what is the context that you're working with your clients, and do you actually understand it?
Yeah.
So Skip, I'm going to challenge you with, how do you discover and how do you figure out that you are out of context?
Well, and I was just kind of thinking about how to kind of put that out there. And I turn it into a troubleshooting sort of process. So I'm kind of a fix-it guy. If it's broke, I want to fix it. I mean, the kids already bringing me toys, this is broke. And I'm like, okay. And I'd fix it. All right. So I think you can look at your relationships with your clients when you're working on this and troubleshoot this. If nothing else, it's an efficiency troubleshooting. I mean, I did, a lot of router installs and all this stuff. I mean, you'd put something in there and yes, it's running. It's connected. Okay. But you never just walked away and go, all right, I got an address and, I can ping the DNS. I'm good. All right. You'd always dig in deeper. All right. How much, can I put on the line? What route am I taking? Are my routing tables working the way that I would thought they would? And you would kind of just walk it through the steps. So with your clients, you do the same thing. All right. You sit down and you don't start with, how are your PCs working out for you? All right. That's the wrong question. It's what are you using your PCs for? All right. So you're assuming their PCs are working at all, right? Or you're assuming they use a PC. They may really need a tablet of some sort. Right. So, you start out and just ask them, how are you using your PCs? What are the major applications that are working every day? What are the pain points? And don't even put it in technical terms, all right? Because they're frustrated with, the interface, the keyboard and the shortcut keys, and you're thinking, all right, well, we need to get them a fancier keyboard or, relay things. Maybe they just, have a really bad workspace and, they've got too much clutter on their desk. I mean, sometimes it's not technical, but just let them explain their problems to you. And then as they do that, troubleshoot the routes, right? Do your solutions meet what they're talking about?
Yeah.
Or are you coming up somewhere else and you've got this tiny little connection over here, but it's really not that good a connection. Well, then you need to reroute how you're delivering technology to meet those needs.
Yeah. And I think the best way of thinking about this is, we've mentioned this litmus test before, like in your life, even if you're not in technology, right? If you say, why aren't things working out the way I want? Why don't people listen to me? I think that is the number one phrase that, right, turns Adam around. Why don't people listen to Adam Walter? And it's because I'm not listening enough. I'm not paying enough of attention. So I am operating with assumptions that are bad. And we need to fix that. How do I fix that is I notice first that I am not getting from my customers what I want. So at Humanize IT, we're developing software all the time. We get lots of suggestions like, "Hey, you should do this with your software. You should do that with your software." And I think, well, why aren't people buying our software? What are the objections to my software? And I have to spend time listening. Like I have some ideas that are not aligned with my clients. Okay, I gotta fix that.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, when I keep putting out new features, yeah, we get one, two new clients here because of the feature. That confirms that I'm on the right track. But
Yeah.
that gives me some bias. How do I check that bias? Like, why aren't we getting more signing up because of this feature? Well, maybe that feature wasn't exactly what we wanted. So maybe I should ask a few people, like, hey, what do you actually want out of our software? And let it be an open ended question.
Yeah.
Hey, given our software, what would you like to see for improvements? I had a great conversation yesterday with one of our members, and they're like, just some little tiny tweaks. I'm like, oh, those are nothing. So she's
Mm-hmm.
like, that would save me so much time and would make my day so much better. I'm like, I could probably slip that in this next dev window. Actually, it's so easy.
Yeah.
And if that would make that big of a difference to you, maybe I should do that. And then suddenly find out that I've been making improvements to the software and they've been going good, but I'm not listening enough. But when I make this change, I bet you I see a whole bunch of people go, "Oh my gosh, that's fantastic!
Yeah.
You were thinking in the wrong world," and you do that by listening. And when I find out in my life that I have been spending time doing things in my own head and not including others into the conversation, then you'll start seeing that people don't pay attention to you. And it's not because they're bad or you're bad. It's just that you're not speaking their language.
Mm-hmm.
But in your head, you see it's like slow growth, or you'll see like steady improvements, and there's these micro improvements. And what you should be seeing is you should see bumps every once in a while, these big leaps every once in a while, and intuitive leaps. Like if you have always believed the same thing politically, you probably are stuck with confirmation bias because
Yeah.
the scale swings left and right. It moves around,
Yeah.
and so you live long enough, and you just start to see this.
Mm-hmm.
If you still believe the same, like food is the best food on the planet, you probably have just been eating the same food.
Uh-huh.
Have you gone out? Have you had shawarma? Have you had different kinds of curry?
Yep.
Have you experienced Ethiopian food? It might be your favorite food out there you've never tried because you've never expanded beyond where you are. And you got to apply this logic to every area of your life. And I'm not saying go out and try everything all the time. What I'm saying is, like, if you are stuck in a rut or on a plateau where your day is the same day all the time and you're tired of that, your
Mm-hmm.
clients aren't listening to you, they're responding to you the same way every time, your revenue streams are staying the same all the time, you probably have some confirmation bias
Well,
and
here's
you need to go out and figure it out.
here's something real important. You need to decide what you want as well. So, and I get this from tech people pretty often, right? They've got an opinion, right, about the way some things ought to happen, and that's fine. I'm not saying you're wrong, but you need to decide what's important. And our software, some of the recommendations that we get from clients, they look at that and go, "No, I don't want to do it that way," right? So when I look at strategic client engagements, I have a perspective. I have a way that I think they should be done. And when I talk to clients or prospects, they're like, "Well, we want to do this," all right? I can go, "No, there's my way," or I can listen to them. Now, I'm not willing to sell out and just make whatever, right? We're principled here. So, we are wanting to steer this, but I can look at things and go, that's probably not the way I would do it, but it does achieve the goals that we're looking for. It fits into, and it allows me to step back and go, okay, I disagree or I differ with that approach a little bit, but the people I'm working with see a lot of value, and together we can see where that value might lead to, so I
Yep.
can get behind that. Um, and it kind of, you have to take yourself down a step sometimes and say, look, I'm not I'm not the guy with all of the absolute answers, and listen to your clients and then support them in their decisions. And
Yeah.
that can really kind of push things around, over the edge, and break you out of these resistance sort of meetings that we get.
Yep.
That my clients don't listen to me. That's a resistance. That's a barrier there. And when you break that down, you build collaboration, and you build the relationship.
And I'm gonna kind of yes and off that. It's like when you are getting out of confirmation bias, like right now to hammer, everything's a nail. To technician, everything is a technical solution. So sit down and you listen to your. This is what QBR should be important, but a lot of you have lost focus on them. Is that you made them technical? You've made them built to confirm your biases that technology is what this client needs.
Yeah.
Instead, if you listen, are you augmenting their business strategy? How is technology augmenting their strategy? Not how are you augmenting technology with their business? How are you augmenting their business with technology? So they're trying to sell roses. How is your technology going to get them to sell more roses?
Mhm.
How and is that their number one goal? Do you know what their number one goal is? And then how are you using technology to get there? And that's how you get out of confirmation bias. You have to check what you've always believed to be true, that Dell PCs are the best PCs on the planet. Well, they used to be. Dell
No,
used to be like, oh,
no,
Optiplexes were fantastic in the late 90s.
no.
What PC was better than a Dell Optiplex in the late 90s?
When it came to reliability, I was all on the compact wagon.
Oh god, the Bigfoots? Come
Yes,
on.
yes.
To this day I've got PTSD around those hard drives. So
See,
this is the
this
point,
is it.
right?
Yeah.
This is it. Now, if you, so let's say we're all crazy like Skip and
Yeah.
we believe that compacts were the best. Now, compact made some amazing servers. I'm on board with that.
Yeah, and that's probably leaning more towards that side because I was
And so,
network admin.
oh, the desktops are just. Ugh.
That
Anyways,
was somebody else's
um,
department.
I'd rather have a gateway than a compact.
Ooh, oh,
But
no.
the at one point in time in my career, I thought Dell was the best. Dell Optiplexes were the best things on the planet. At one point in Skip's career, he thought compacts were the best. I thought Lenovo's were just POSs. And they just never built anything that was useful to me. They had that little red eraser in every single build they did, and it wasn't for me.
It's
Then
IBM.
they came out with the Yoga, and I love the Yoga.
Yeah.
I think the Yoga is a fantastic laptop. I checked myself. Now, this is like 5 personality changes later, right? I went from Dell, then for a long time, what were we? Lenovo desktops. I still wouldn't touch a Lenovo laptop unless you absolutely forced me. I really liked Alienware for my primary laptop for a while. Then I went back to Dell Inspiron laptops and kind of bounced around a little bit, and then finally I got a Yoga because I was desperate. My computer died and I got one. I was like, it'd be kind of nice to have a 3-in-1 that could flip around and do presentations on. And I got it, and like just slick, easy, feels good to my hands, great charging, just all around this solid material. I'm like, I'm
Yeah.
won over on this. But I changed, right? When was the last time you changed for your clients? Do you still think Microsoft licensing is the way to go? Most of you figured out that it's not. But if this
Yeah.
is the only way you've ever made money, why would you think of anything else? Where why would you think of anything else? If you've always done this for the past 20 years, we've made our money off of Microsoft licenses, off of reselling licenses. Why would you think anything else is true? And so you've got to challenge yourself. Look at your own self and say, what has been like, oh, this is the way it always has been. Oh, this is just the way we do things. Like, have you checked why? Have you gone out to do what is called, and this is going to kill a lot of you. right? I'm going to say 3 letters here, and you're going to go, oh, come on. RFP is important and was built to remove confirmation bias
Yep.
because we had vendor bias in corporations where we kept going back to the same vendor and we realized that we were stuck in a rut.
Mm-hmm.
And there were better vendors coming out every day. So we built the RFP process to make sure we were testing them fairly and checking our own bias.
Well,
And
when
so
you
it's supposed to be like, okay, when you are looking at your, like every few years, when you're looking at what your standard solution is for your stack, review, test it against 3 other solutions that are solid, and create standard criteria. When it comes to your client and they need some better way to sell roses, come up with 3 solutions that will help them sell those roses better.
yeah,
Don't just think automatically faster computers.
right.
Think, okay, what about online marketplace? What about, is there any way AI can be used for this? Is there a solution that will allow them? And what's the actual problem? Why aren't they selling more roses?
Yeah.
And so the RFP process that so many of you hate is built to solve this problem. But if it's a good RFP process, it's actually quite enjoyable because
Yep.
you get to see the scores and how things are going and like, oh my gosh, this solution really does have a better client portal. This solution really does have a better set of materials. The workflows are way easier on this solution. And so what we want to do is check that. Build
Yep.
your own RFP process for everything. Test your people, test your solutions, test your preconceived notions so that you're not constantly calling everything a zebra
Yep.
because it
And
always has been.
yeah, and that's you mentioned the yoga laptop. So when we challenge our confirmation biases, we're not just giving up. All right, we're not just saying, okay, whatever, I'll just agree with the next solution that comes around. All right, you get to listen. So Lenovo, they bought IBM ThinkPads, line of business years ago. I wasn't a big fan. They were heavy and chunky, and I hadn't done much with them since then. So yes, I'm old. Anyway, and so Adam buys this yoga, all right, and we're rocking along. I'm still running my HP laptop, but it's just getting old, right? And it just takes longer. And I'm like, all right, I got to get a laptop. All right. So I know Adam's really liked this one. He's gone. He's talked about it. I'm like, I'll take a look at those. All right. I step back and my approach went in, yep, I'm just going to go buy another HP because I've always bought HP laptops. Right. But I took back and started looking at it. And sure enough, performance, weight, the screen, the battery life, all these things that they start lining up. And I'm looking at price. I'm going, this is a pretty good deal. I'm looking at the technical specs. This does work. And now I've got, an opinion from someone that says this is, a workable solution. I step back and go, okay, I think this will work. And so my backpack, it has one of those yogas now. And yes, they are really great. I like them. So,
Mine PCs.
yeah. So it's an evolutionary process, but you're still technical guys, at heart many times. You're still problem solving. Don't give up on that. Just focus that on the needs of your clients versus your opinions.
Yeah. And needs of your clients versus your own is the key thing here. And you have to gather those. You have to learn. You're going to spend some time actually talking to your clients. Do a QBR, do a SWOT, um, take a class on these things, figure it out. But if you spend time listening, you're going to spend time delivering. That is some things that are out of your comfort zone sometimes.
Hmm?
And you're going to find out that, oh my gosh, I've been doing this wrong the whole time.
Yeah.
This is actually a horse, and these horses are really cool. There's a variety of them.
You can ride these
And
horses.
I can
Wow.
ride these horses. I can use them to pull things. Oh, look at all of, I can do shows, I can do tricks. And you think, wow, this is way better than the zebra. I did not know they could do all these things. Challenge your biases.
Mm-hmm.
Get out, look at something else honestly, and figure out, is this the direction I should go? Are compacts the best PCs on the market? Maybe not. Maybe they still are. But do an honest assessment. Should I be moving in which direction? Should I still be an MSP serving and reselling Microsoft licenses and PCs? Or should I lean into AI? Should I lean into software as a service? Should I lean into consultative practices? You have to decide that. But you can't know until you ask the questions and bounce ideas off of coaches, bounce ideas off your clients. But as Skip said, listen first, then act on that knowledge. Increase your knowledge set so now you know what's out there, and now you know the actual problems, and then you can find solutions. You're an engineer. You're good at finding solutions. You just need better data.
There you go.
Thanks for coming on. Confirmation bias is a really big one for me. I should talk about Dunning-Kruger as well. The
Oh,
peak
that
of
would
Mount
make
Stupid would be a great podcast coming up here. So I'm heading off to Colorado. I'll be in Colorado this week, I believe. So yeah, everybody have a great one. If you happen to be in the Denver area, look me up. I'm going to be kind of bumming around the mountains out there, and I might make an appearance at PAX 8.
yeah, awesome.
All right, see y'all later.
See ya.